Welcome to Home Gym History. My name is Rob, and you can find me at Vintage Weights PGH, of course. And I'm here with Josh Bryant. Welcome, Josh.
Thanks for having me on, Rob. I'm excited about doing this podcast. I like the stuff you do, and I've been looking forward to this. Glad we could connect.
Well, hey, I'm here thanks to Garage Gym Radio. They produce my podcast, Home Gym History, and I've been following your stuff for quite a long time. Listeners, you've probably seen him on Instagram, on Jailhouse Strong. Maybe you've read his books, maybe not. Maybe you've seen his powerlifting career, his coaching. I'm going to get into all that stuff over the next hour, so please stay tuned. And let's start out, Josh, with just the beginning, powerlifting career.
All right.
What's your history? What's your entry? Where did you get curious about strength? I'm gonna bulk up.
Okay. Yeah. So I got interested in strength very early on. My dad was a All-American in the hammer throw and close in the shot put too in college. So that he was kind of lifting weights, and he wasn't lifting weights when I was born or anything, but he had told me about it when I was a kid. Then I got into watching WWE wrestling, or WWF at the time.
Okay.
And I saw everybody, and I wanted to lift weights. So my dad would go play racquetball at the YMCA, and I was like 5 years old, and I'd go in there and just screw around in the weight room.
Yeah.
And back then, no one seemed to care. They thought, if anything, they thought it was kind of cool and like, hey, come on, kid, can you do this? And like, okay. So then by the time I was about 12, I got into, I take that back. So about 10 or 11, I asked my dad, I said, I want to jump higher for basketball. So he had bought this universal sort of equivalent machine from my uncle.
Okay.
And he's like, leg press. I'm like, they didn't have a leg press on it. So what he did is they had like a bench press. He knocked the bench out. He said, get under it and push your legs up. So it was like a vertical leg press kind of thing.
Nice.
And I said, what do I do? He said, just do 5 sets, 8 reps, as heavy as you can go. I said, okay. And so I just did that for a while every day. And then I would bench prep, slide the bench back in. I actually was kind of intuitive for a little kid, like 10 years old. I would do really deep where you get all the way down. Then I would do them like lockouts where you move it like an inch and stuff to see how much weight I could lift. So I was working on those different ranges of motions and things like that. Kind of figured out. Then my dad and I were talking. I'm like, isn't that thing up there kind of like a rebound, that lat pull down? You just pull down like a rebound? I'm like, yeah, that'd probably help you, wouldn't it? I said, yeah. So I started doing lat pull downs and then figured out like, okay, if you like sort of a push press on that thing's like jumping. So I kind of figured a lot of things out.
Yeah.
Definitely there was some intuition and like, just genetically my mind was set up for this or something. And then I started lifting weights about 12 years old at the YMCA, like actually I did a doctor's note. I think he'd be like 15 or 16, 14, I don't know. A doctor gave me a note so I could lift weights, gave me orientation there, started lifting like serious, like committed, but like, following their little weight cards they had there. And like, I started to figure out a lot of the stuff was stupid myself. Like they were saying, go into the Nautilus room and I'm seeing a bunch of, like out of shape, middle-aged ladies, men with man boobs and can't lift anything and unathletic. Then I'm like, all the badasses are over on the other side. And, I don't think so. I'm going to go over here,
It wasn't hard to figure out. Yeah.
They're all in the free weight room.
Yeah.
I go in there, the free weight room, and people were nice and welcoming and all that kind of stuff. But then about 14, I was boxing, and my dad's friend was a powerlifter, actually a really good one. His name was Steve Hall. He benched like 545 in a meet back in the 80s. And he said, why don't you come to the gym with me? And I was already doing like reps with 225 at 14 because I've been lifting since I'm like 5. And he was like, I think he thought it was going to be like a mess, like, a kid put on 45 and kind of, he's like, oh, wow, you actually look really good technically and stuff. And how do you know how to do this? I said, I just spend my time in the weight room and I kind of watch people that seem like they know what they're doing. And I avoid the people like the plague that don't seem like they know what they're doing. I kind of put them all together and here we are. So he taught me to lift and I was, my bench went up something like 50 pounds over the summer and I already been lifting for a while just because correct programming from him, I was already doing pretty good. We got to really good. And then I stopped boxing to get ready for football. So not, working out for 2-3 hours a day boxing helped increase my weight.
All the
And
time and
then,
energy went into the weight room.
right. So then from there, just continue to get lift for football, track, things like that. And I did some powerlifting meets in high school,
Mm-hmm.
on the side sort of thing. It wasn't a school sport or anything. I just had to kind of find it myself. And then I just kept going, and I liked it. In all the sports I was in, like track, football, I was always a team captain. But I really liked the aspect of not having to take responsibility for everybody else, because I took the team captain stuff very seriously. Like,
That's interesting. Yeah. You're
you know,
carrying the
like,
team.
right. Like, I mean, I was like ruthless, like inspecting people's colors and stuff. Like if there weren't, like in like you wear blue socks and that's our rival, like you
Yeah.
have to go in there and change it. And like, I was really taking it seriously. Like personally, if someone didn't show up to a workout, like going by people's houses, I used to go by people's houses in the morning for our workouts, get in my car and bring them to school. So I kind of got tired of taking responsibility for other people
Yeah.
and wanted to kind of focus on what I like to do and see where I could take it. And, then I started powerlifting, full time. I mean, I say, I was already doing it regardless of whether I was competing. I did compete sometimes, but not all the time. And then I started to seek out people all over the United States. I started to drive at like 19 years old after I got done playing college football.
Well, I
Started
was going to
competing
say, yeah. So you went to college. Where'd you go to
at
college?
Moore Park College.
Okay. And you were playing football. And then
Yep.
when you know, is this summer break
Basically, the
or were you
guy,
done? You left college. You're like, this isn't for me.
I kind of was thinking about that anyways, but I was playing fullback,
Okay.
and they had gone to a different sort of offense where they're still using a fullback, but it was like a guy who was like 190 pounds, almost like a tailback that was called a fullback kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I started playing guard, and it was fun. I mean, but I didn't see my I didn't think I'd probably get a fair chance to make the NFL or anything as a guard at like 5'11". It's just probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
Um, thinking like, and I was I was out in California taking class out in California, and like, I mean, back then, 20 years ago or whatever, a little over 20 years ago, it was like, even like the state schools were like, it was $900 for a semester. I mean, it wasn't really like, oh, I need to get a scholarship to play football. The coach, you
Yeah.
need to get a scholarship. Who cares? Like, it's $900. I can do what I want to do. And I
Yeah.
did that. And I was playing guard. Was they talking about actually, I remember they kept saying, well, you're going to start both ways next year. You only want, because I was in real good condition. I'm like, you know what? You recruited me as a fullback already and switched me, kind of bait and switch. I mean, come on, they had to have known. You could walk
Had
in
some
there.
kind of vision, of
Right.
their
Yeah.
team. So they knew what was
They
coming.
made it sound like they want a guard in the backfield, like a
Yeah.
guard faster than a guard. And that's what I would have been like. Good for 3rd and 4, lots of blocking, that kind of
But
thing. Whatever. So,
I'd apply the same thing to you, Josh, that from everything you've told me about your lifting career thus far, from like 5 years old all the way up to now when you're about 19, you have a lot of situational awareness. You've got to, and I'm not trying to kiss your butt here, blow rainbows your way, but I mean,
anybody likes their butt kiss. That's fine.
yeah, exactly. So, but listening to your story and knowing what I know about you leading up to this, there's a certain element of maturity that sometimes kids don't have, that, you're looking around and you're thinking, I better go over here. I better do this. Or what if I, do this? That would help with rebounding. All these kind of like intuitive situational awareness type moments that, even though you're 19 years old, you're seeing the writing on the wall that, this isn't really going to work out for me with football.
Sure.
So let me explore this. So you start traveling. And I mean, you have some epic travels. You're going to deadlift with Gary Frank eventually. You're heading
Right.
here,
So,
there, Metroflex. Yeah.
First one is 19 years old, traveling in 18, 19 years old. I used to go 137 miles to squat every Saturday each way. So it was a 274, whatever that is, 270, whatever mile, 137. Yeah. It's 289 miles round trip or whatever the hell it is. 274.
Yeah.
And
it's early. It's cool.
Yeah, somewhere like that, right? It was pretty far.
It was longer than most people drive to the gym.
It's not. So where I live in Texas now, that's still not close, but it's not as much traffic going through like the LA area. Like down here, I mean, if you head out west right now, 137 miles, hour and a half or something. I mean, it's fast.
I spent about a year in Texas, and the people that lived in Texas, my Air Force instructors, I was there with the Air Force. I joke with them like, "What? You're driving like an hour to go out to dinner? Like, what are you doing?" And it's because
Yeah,
Texas is a big state, man. It's
it
a
is.
different
So,
lifestyle.
yeah. So I started training with those guys, and then I eventually trained after that with a guy named Josh Bryant. He was the first person over 50 to deadlift 800, and his bench press was not. It was okay. It wasn't horrible, and he wanted me to help him with his bench press. I called him up. I said, "Hey, I want to train with you on deadlifts. I'm not as good as you are or anything, but I will push myself. I'll never miss a workout. And let me come train with you." He said, "Okay, only one condition." I'm thinking, what's he gonna want? He's like,
Yeah.
"You have to bench press with me too." I said, "Let's do it." We did it, and so that was really good. And then from there, I went down to Louisiana, took classes at LSU, and trained with Gary Frank, which was really good. So each of these different groups and people, I think that's sort of like you said, like that kind of situational awareness. I think that's a gift I have, or development, or whatever, is being able to read the room of like
Yeah.
not only emotional intelligence, but just picking these things up from people. And I guess having like a lack of a scientific, good bullshit detector of like, okay, intuitively early on, I can see like this dude at the YMCA is all smoke and mirrors. He's
Yeah.
strutting around and he's, claiming to be, some strength expert, and he's bench pressing 40-pound dumbbells kind of thing. And he weighs 200
Yeah.
pounds. Come on. And
Yeah. He's the
so,
champion of the local Y.
right. Not even that. Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, anyways, go to Gary Frank. And then after that, head back to California, had some really good training with Ode Hagen. So Gary Frank, was cool in the sense of like, he really honed in the concept of like a lot of the speed training.
Mhm.
And then I went back to California, trained with Ode Hagen. He was like the only person, that's 60 years old to be a professional strongman.
Mhm.
And then that was the cool part too, is a lot of these people I trained with were like
I
various
love
ages.
him. Yeah, I
Yes.
love Ode Hagen. I mean, I'm into grip strength, so I mean, he's the GOAT. He's legendary. So
He's like God in grip strength, huh?
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm speechless.
Yeah. So
Even
we go
talking
to him.
about him, he's awesome.
Same thing. People always think if like it's real complicated. All I did is I didn't know. I thought he was in. I just read about him in Milo. I
Yeah.
thought he was over in Norway. And
Excuse me.
see this thing, the Ventura County Star. Back when they had newspapers, or people
Yeah.
actually read them, and he was said Ode Hagen won the strongman contest at Oxnard Harbor. I'm like, why in the hell would he come over from Norway to do that in a small strongman? It's a
Yeah.
Newbury Park resident, which is like an hour away from where I lived. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it wasn't
Well, I
complicated.
mean,
Just back then, people use a phone book, got a phone book,
yeah.
looked them up, called them,
There's
said,
so
hey,
many. I mean, I think I'm going to string together an episode where I just talk about all the common things I see with some of the people I've talked with, because everything you've said so far, there's so many common things. I mean, the long drive to the gym. Matt Wenning told me how he drove so far to get to West Side, back and forth,
yeah,
back and
West
forth,
Side,
back and forth. I mean, loving WWE and, being a thrower, all these things connect. Richard Soren, he was a thrower. Bert Soren, I spoke with him. Zach Evanesh, WWE. I mean, there's YMCA. Oh my gosh. I mean, so many people.
The
That's where they got their
YMCA, dude, they've
start.
totally cut the nuts off that place. So,
They really have. I was going to ask, what's happened to the YMCA? That was like every person
it
I
was
speak
classic
to.
back then. Like,
Yeah, that's where you went.
You could walk in, they had a real weight room. And it's funny, they had like the same characters at all. You walk in, there's always old dudes in the locker room, butt naked, reading the newspaper, and the towels were at their feet instead of on, which I have no idea why.
Yeah.
And like, it was just like they're all like the same, and like there would be like different people lifting, and there'd always be like some old dude hanging around there that want to give advice to people. Yeah, they all had. It's not the same. Like I took
Maybe
my
it's
kids
just
there to the one I lifted at, and there was like
liability issues or something, soften them up. I don't know.
I would have thought the weight room was bigger because like weightlifting now is more accepted as a whole, not hardcore maybe, but the weight room was literally a third the size of it used to be.
Wow.
And there was more people in there than there used to be.
That's interesting. Yeah, my local Y, I mean, it's all like very safe machines. I mean, it looks identical to like any kind of corporate gym, Planet Fitness, whatever.
Fitness?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, lunk alarm on the wall, that kind of thing. So but then I hear So I guess I want to point that out for listeners that may be younger that don't know. Like every single person I talk to, almost everyone I talk to says they started out like going to the YMCA at some point. So
You know,
back
the
in the
YMCA
day, the Y was legit.
the powerlifting nationals, the YMCA powerlifting nationals in the early '80s was like one of the premier powerlifting meets.
Yeah. So then, I mean, you end up doing some serious training at Metroflex, and that's like your home base after these travels, things
Right.
like
So
that.
now, after Odehog, and just this one
Uh
little
huh.
piece, so then I went to
Sure.
Tennessee to train, to mainly for personal training people, and because California's a little tough, the market. I think I got my own head a little bit, just saying like, you know, these foo people aren't going to want to train with me. But I think when you make it a self fulfilling prophecy, although I did go to Tennessee, and I guess I
Mm-hmm.
believed it was going to work too because I got there and I was like struggling in California. I remember going to this gym. This guy's like, "Yeah, it's probably take you like a year to build up your clientele full time. It's like a week or two." I mean, it was nothing, and
Yeah.
it was awesome. The people were so nice. And then I started training over at Vanderbilt University. The strength coach then is a guy
Oh,
named
okay.
John Sis, probably the most underrated strength coach out there because he doesn't really put himself out there or anything. He just does his job good and real well. And he let me train in there. At first, I'm like, "Hey, dude, can I stop by?" He emailed over there. He's like, "Yeah." So I go in there and start lifting heavy. And he's like, "What do you want music wise?" He's like putting on heavy metal, coming out cheering. Well, this place is cool. They let me come in there and train. And I had great workouts at Vanderbilt. Like, it was awesome. Like the baseball coach, Tim Corbin, would come in there
Mm-hmm.
and you know, cheer. Like, it wasn't like, you know, I'm used to like, you're kind of ostracized at those kind of college weight rooms a lot of times. Back then, the strength coaches be kind of intimidated, you know, or feel
Mm-hmm.
like you're something going to take away from them. They were the opposite. They're like, you know, bring the energy. If anybody's
That's
strong
cool.
wants to come train me, bring them down here, kind of thing. It was really
Yeah.
cool, really good time. From there, I'm like, hey, you know what? Like, I think I want to train at this Metroflex gym. A friend of mine, or excuse me, a friend of mine moved. One of the guys I drove the 137 miles to, had moved to DFW, Dallas Fort Worth area,
Oh, okay.
and he said, "You need to come down and visit." I said, "Okay." So I come down and visit, and we were going to train at a gym called Stroud's, which is a good gym. And I think like Steve Goggins had trained there sometime. At the time, Johnny Jackson was training there before he switched over to Metroflex. And I saw that video of Ronnie Coleman, the famous, you know,
Oh
one.
man.
And he's like at Metroflex. I'm like, why don't we go to Ronnie Coleman's gym? And we go to, because we first go to Stroud's, and it was fine. I mean, like, the best part about it, honestly, there was like a lot of kind of, lack of a better term, like I was saying all the time, hot, like kind of white trash looking, wear nothing, you know,
Well,
ladies
I
on the
mean,
stair,
what's your age at this point? You've
like
got to be, I
24,
don't know,
25, 25.
yeah, mid 20s, something like
Yeah.
that.
So
You're
I'm
a
like,
young
this is
single
cool.
guy.
This is
You
cool, but I
know
go to
the
like a honky tonk bar or something for that. So I need to like focus on training here. I'm like, go in there. They're
yeah, yeah.
nice. But it wasn't like, I don't know. My gut just said this wasn't the place. It wasn't like, I didn't go in there. Like, I'm always of the school of thought. The best situation is good company, but bad company or neutral company, I'm better off alone. Like, I can create my own atmosphere. I'm gonna work out right after we get done with this. I can have a good
Yeah.
training session. I don't need people here. It'd be better with a great training partner, probably.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I like, if someone's not bringing some energy, something to the table, I can do it alone. I've done it many times alone. I've set world records
I'm a
training
home
alone.
gym guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So
primarily I train alone, and the only people I train with are the people I invite to come over. So yeah,
right, exactly.
I
So
hear
that's
you.
what I'm saying. I'm not going to go to this gym if it's not like bringing something to the table. There's no specialty equipment that I had to have or anything. So they're nice. I can use this as a backup plan because right then I was in an apartment that was literally like 2 minutes away from this place where Metroflex was a half hour away. I'm going to Metroflex. So we go over there and it's the owner's blast. He's like, "What do you want?" And I told him Pantera. And like he puts on like that song Effing Hostile, puts it on. I'm like, dude, this is
Yeah.
great. And it's like, you know, it was weird. It was like April or something. And it's not usually that hot here, but for whatever reason, it was a heat wave or something. It was super hot. And he's bringing us out waters and like, just like, and I'm like, okay, this guy's awesome. He's so nice. And he's like, driving back or whatever, I get an email at the hotel, because back then you can, you know, on your phone or anything, but they'd have Wi-Fi stations or whatever at
Sure.
motels, and sure as hell was a motel at
Like the
that time.
little business center type computer sitting over there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And back then, like I was staying at raspy places like Motel 6, you know, like probably 5% of the guests even knew what the internet was. So, you know, it was always open. Go in there, check my email, and the Metroflex owner emails me sort of like, you know, like basically said, "This is divine providence. You need to train here." Like I feel it, dude. I feel the same way. I'm as soon as I move there, I'm there. I'm like I was there,
Nice.
and go in there and just had like the greatest training sessions ever. I mean, it was then. So I did powerlifting there. Then I did bodybuilding there. I didn't actually compete in bodybuilding, but I trained bodybuilding
Where are
with the
you
owner.
with your powerlifting competitive career at this point? So when you're training at Metroflex, I mean, what kind of competitions are you entering at this point?
I was kind of the end of the powerlifting career, so I did some,
Okay.
but it was mainly at that point training more like bodybuilding training and like more
Okay.
tactical kind of
So
physical training.
this is more switching over different disciplines at this point in your
Right.
career.
So then I
Okay.
started like, okay, I'm gonna start the personal training business and all this down here. At
Yeah.
first, it was like, all right, I had a sponsor, and it turned out to be kind of a BS thing. They were sending money and all this, but then they quit sending. It just turned the whole company turned to be kind of a sham. And
Yeah.
okay, so first they're saying like, we don't want you working too much. I said okay, and you know, like enough to get by. So like say like 10 hours a week of personal training, and you know,
Sure.
all cash kind of thing. So you have kind of like, okay, cool. And then
Yeah. Sounds good.
yeah, sounds good to me, right? So we'll do it. And then that didn't work out. But then I lucked out. I got some really good clients right off the bat because I had said that back then powerlifting forums were all the rage. Like, you know, you post those message boards. And
Sure. Sure.
I
Like
needed places to
bodybuilding.com
train. So I
forums
drive
and
all
stuff.
over. Sometimes in
Yeah.
Massachusetts or something, drive over. Where am I training? Okay, I'll be in Tennessee. And you find out, oh yeah, stop by my gym. Okay, cool. So that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
that was a way to communicate with people. And it was actually good for that kind of thing because like you knew it wasn't like social media with millions of people where you didn't know. It was like big enough where you have options, but small enough where you could know it's not some just, you know, freaking carny fest when you get there. So go into there, and I said, hey, I'm moving to Texas. Got kid. There was a high school all state players like, hey, why don't you train me? And then he had a couple of referrals. I started getting, and then the owner of Metroflex, I told him was going. I started getting really good clients too. I'm like, this is fun. Like, it wasn't just general fitness training, which I liked, but this was a lot more fun. And then everybody started doing really well, you know, kicking ass in football. You know, then I started getting more strength athletes. They started dominating. And like, I started like watching other people succeed more than I liked it myself. So then I'm like, okay, I still like to train hard, but like the drain of powerlifting training for me was I'd always be thinking about how much numbers I got to hit and all this kind of thing. So it was a mental
Mhm.
drain, like squatting,
Yeah.
say, to 900 pounds. That's lingering with you all day. I mean, you go to like, you're like kind of, at least me, I'm not saying everybody, I'm a
Yeah.
useless human being at that point. Like, I don't want to do anything else. Like, you know, I'm going to do the bare minimum to survive because I need to keep my legs fresh. Like, you know, it's a gym
Yeah.
hero, but like a low life outside the gym
Sure.
kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I'm going to keep
Well, I
training
mean,
really
if
and
listeners
focus.
don't know, if they've hopped on to, following you in your recent endeavors, I mean, you were the youngest person to bench 600 pounds, I believe. You came into prominence and kind of being a name, if you will, in powerlifting at a very young age comparatively
Yep.
to some other lifters. So you've been at this for a while.
Okay.
So you'd been in the game powerlifting for a career's worth at this point,
Mhm.
arguably. You'd been to the Mountaineer Cup. You'd been there. You'd been to the big shows. You'd been to the big meets, I should say, and you'd done your thing. So the thing I found interesting, though, that I'm going to ask you is, from what you've told me, you jumped into lifting. You loved it because you were getting kind of exhausted being the team captain. But in a weird way, you've come full circle to being the team captain. Now you're coaching all these other people. So,
That's the
you
difference.
think that was kind of a subconscious thing?
No, because the difference is here is being like the true team captain. You can, if somebody's not the right fit for the program, I don't have to be like a jerk and be like, hey, you know what? you suck, go to hell, like, you know, go do your own thing. I say, hey, you know what? Seriously, say, hey,
Yeah,
this isn't working. No hard feel, nothing personal. Like, I mean, like, there has to be somebody that would be with me that might be a better fit somewhere else if it's not working,
gotcha.
and vice versa.
True.
So, you know,
So
it's more of a
as a team
selective
captain,
process.
you can't really pick your players.
Not in high school, at least.
Yeah, you're not picking the players. Whereas as a coach, you have some power over who you're coaching, who you're
You have the
training.
power of coaching, and then also,
It's a
you know,
good
for
point.
example, I like, for example, they said one of the rules was if you miss more than, I think, like 4 times in the off season, you get to play. One of the kids didn't even show up to the off season, and his uncle is a very famous quarterback in the NFL. Okay, so I said, "Hell no, dude, you're not playing." He's like,
Yeah.
and this kid was useless. So I said, "Okay, you're not playing." And like, what do you mean? Well, that's the rules. Like, I mean, I didn't make the. I mean, I'm the that's the ordinance. I'm enforcing it, kind of thing. And then his uncle called up the school and, you know, promised to do this and that, and, like, you know, going to give halftime pep talks, which none of that actually
Oh,
panned out.
jeez.
And just the
Yeah.
coach gave in. So where I could say, hey, to Rob, hey, I'm going to work with you. Okay,
Yeah.
if you work with like if you miss 6 workouts, you know, we're done. I don't even do that to people. I feel like the difference is the transparency of, like, I can do it my way kind of thing versus, like,
Sure.
I'm taking, you know, a team captain, you're sort of not the general, you're like taking orders from the top. So if the coach, like, obviously, like, say you feel like you have players to run the ball and he
Mm-hmm.
wants a pass every down, there's nothing you can do about it.
True.
Where
So you
this is,
found the best of both worlds. You know,
I found the best
you
of both
found
worlds. Yep.
where you can still, you're letting go of some of the babysitting you had to do as a team captain,
Right.
but you're still a leader. You're still able to lead. You're still able to espouse the things you believe in.
Honestly, I don't even hate the babysitting as much as if people are honest. So if you said to me, like, hey, you know what? Sorry, I missed 3 workouts this week. And I said, Rob, you know what? You're training for a powerlifting meet. You need to rethink this because it's not the way to optimize results. You're like, you
Yeah.
know what? You're right. Let's regroup here. We're good. It's more like if you said, like, oh, well, like, you know, I just didn't have time, but yeah, I'm gonna do. You know, it's fine. Like, no,
Well,
it's fine.
it's like us hopping on this podcast. I mean, we had to reschedule this, I don't even know, 3, 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife said, what the heck's with this guy? And and I said, well, listen, I don't really care, honey, because he's letting me know. Because I've had other people, and I won't name names, but I've had other
Yeah,
people just no show. I'm just sitting here, and I'm like, where the heck are
I
they?
wouldn't do that
And
too.
I don't hear from them, and I gotta track them down the next day. Like, hey, man, weren't we supposed to talk last night? Like, what happened? And I said to my wife, no, I don't care because he lets me know like a whole day ahead of time. Hey, can we push it to this or is this going to work? I'm going to be here.
That's why I asked you
So,
the video because I could have done it
yeah.
yesterday, but I had to have video. I don't have video where I
Yeah.
was. I don't have Wi-Fi at that place.
So, well, I'm just pointing it out that
Right.
for the listeners to know that like the stuff you're saying isn't just like goofy,
No, it's
self
not. And like
praise.
you're saying, like,
It's the way you're living your life, because
hey,
even
I
with
got
a
80%
podcaster,
to give to this. You know what? Will you work with me? I got 80% to give to it. I know it's not optimal, but like, you know what? I feel better being pretty good instead of great, and it's going to be better for my mental health. Of course, I'll work with that. I just have a problem if you said, hey, you know what? I want to be the best in the world. And you're like, oh, dude, I missed like whatever because I was hungover. Now, come on, man. Like,
yeah, exactly. You don't want to be the best in the world then because the
exactly.
best in the world probably aren't doing that.
Right.
So, as far as the best in the world, I mean, you've coached. Oh my goodness. I don't even know. I lost count. I was going to count it up and say, oh, he's coached this many champions. And then I lost count. So, you've coached so many champions in powerlifting and elsewhere.
Mm.
We got to get into that. So, where do you go from your training? I mean, was it just a natural kind of linear progression of things that the people you're training are winning bigger and bigger and bigger
It's sort
kind
of.
of championships?
So there's gonna be that. Like sometimes you get people that you go real far with. Like one of the initial ones, a guy named Ben Graves, was at the time the best raw bencher at the world, and you know, take him from pretty good to that level. So there are those kind of things of when you've worked with somebody and if they stick with it, you stick with it, they get there. But then there's also like I think people like, you know, spiritual gurus or whatever would call it the law of stewardship. of
Yeah.
basically, if, like I heard a preacher one time explain to somebody, he's like, if you can't manage 60,000 a year, you're not going to be able to manage 600,000. And I think it's the same way with this. If you can't help somebody, deadlift 600 and do well at a local meet, you can at a world championship probably. So
Mm-hmm.
what happens is, like, I'll give you a good example, is I started training these high school kids, and some of them were going up to college scholarships, like all over the place, like Oklahoma and all. Some of them liked it a lot, and they're like, hey, you know what? I am like that 5'9" all state guard, but I'm not going to be able to play in college. My tenaciousness is not going to make me Division I, so I'm going to focus on lifting. And the guys like Johnny Jackson were in there, seeing this guy deadlift 405, and then 2 years later he's getting ready for a meet and doing 660. They're thinking, okay, if he can get this kid that was like just a normal kid to come in here and be an elite level of strength, what can he do with me? You know what I mean? So people start to notice, like, that's sort of the thing is, like, a lot of people,
It's interesting,
want to jump into, say, like online training or coaching, and they've
mm-hmm.
never actually worked. I do consultations with people, and it's like, you talk about the situational awareness. It's like, okay, you're 55 years old, you're out of shape, you've never worked with anybody before, you have no internet following, you're not super like persuasive. Like, other than that, you're gonna set the world on fire. It doesn't work like that. So, like, I think that's the key, is if you do well with what you have, bigger things come. You have to manage what you have now for this principle of stewardship, and then it kind of opens a door. If you can't handle, you know, you can't handle a general fitness client, you're not going to handle probably an elite level fitness client either.
I love that. Yeah, that makes sense. I love that. I mean, a walk before you can run kind of
I think the
concept.
linear, so you talk about linear, that's an interesting term, because yes and no, but I think in training we'd call it step loading, where, like, it's not going to usually be like, if you're benching 300 at, like, 15 and like 600 at 25, it probably wasn't 5 pounds a month and, oh, okay, here we are. It's going to be more like, you're kind of flatline, what's going on, to boom, flatline,
Yeah.
boom. And every once in a while you get these big jumps in performance,
Yeah.
and some people can handle it and use the momentum and expand exponentially. And a lot of people are choke artists. They can't handle it when their time comes.
Yeah. I mean, there's such a mental aspect to it.
Huge.
So as far as being a choke artist, yeah, there's a mental aspect that I think most sports, I mean, it's a
Business,
little
sports, everything.
it's off from strength training. I mean, even podcasting, getting the nervousness out before I get on the air, that kind of thing,
Right.
is huge. So yeah, I mean, a little away from strength training, I should say, but here in Pittsburgh, a local guy, Sean Casey, he played professional baseball, mostly with the Reds. He did quite a bit. Well, the Yankees just picked him up as their new hitting coach midway through the season because they're having like a slump with hitting. And he's done a lot of local interviews with it. And so much of it is mental. And so much of it is, he just said, look, like, these are the Yankees. These are like some of the best hitters in the league. So I don't need to teach them how to hit. I'm just coming in to talk to them and say, look, I've been there. I've been in the World Series. It's a mental game. So it just spoke to me as far as lifting as well, like the mental side of things. And so pushing yourself as well as showing up for competition, that kind of thing, and not choking.
And also retreating. Sometimes, like, you're on a deload week or something, and you have to not push yourself to the limit. Like, there's so much to this. Like, even the bodybuilding part of, like, it's a different thing. That's why I wanted to do it. I never competed, but I trained it and got shredded like that because I needed to know that it's different. With the powerlifting I was telling you earlier, I'm looming with this heavy lift coming up. It's eating me all week in a good or a bad way, however you look at it. That's on my mind. Like, everything's focused on that. Where bodybuilding, the training wasn't like that. To me, it's more fun. It's shorter breaks, more volume. It's a lot more fun. But the mental part is the eating.
Oh yeah.
The nutrition, I mean, because, like, people say, well, like, because Brian one day said, you diet harder than Ronnie Coleman, or Branch Warren even at times. I said, what's the secret to it? I said, I was saying about it. I'm like, there is no secret to it except I don't put myself in bad situations. Like, what do you mean? Well, I don't have like snacks at home that I'm avoiding. It's not like I look at the crackers and like 1 week till I get a cracker. It's like the crap's out of the house,
Yeah, just don't have it.
the only people I'm around hanging out with are people from Metroflex. You know, it's everything is that way. Like
Yeah.
you know, it's like, how does it succeed? Well, like, how do you get through this? Well, it's not like getting through this. It's like the environment you're in. So you kind of create this environment that way. And that's the mental part of like, you know, not hanging around when people are going to watch football all day and just drink beer and eat chips and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Where
And I mean,
powerlifting means performance. It's all mental though.
environment's a good segue into the third aspect of your career that I wanted to get to, with which would be your writing. And you're a very good writer, and you partner with Adam Benche on a lot of your books. And
Yeah. He's my
your
best friend.
your biggest book, arguably, is Jailhouse Strong, and it's been out for, I guess,
Strong
about 10
argument.
years now.
Yeah.
Yeah, about 10 years. And
October, I think
Jailhouse
October,
Strong,
it's October is the 10-year, like, I don't remember the exact
there you
date,
go.
but
Okay, so we're coming right up on it. And when it comes to environment, I mean, that's such a big part of Jailhouse Strong, is just
mhm.
the environment, that this training and the training style that you interviewed all these different people about is coming out of and inspired by their time in jail. And how did that come about? What was the origin of Jailhouse Strong?
That's a great question. So, um, a lot of it is, a lot of it comes down to when I was, so I should have, we guess we don't want to talk about my career beginnings as much. But so what happened was from the YMCA, when we talked about earlier, to training down in Yorba Linda, where I drove 137 miles, there was a spot in between. I was at a gym called Santa Barbara Gym Fitness, and like Fred Hatfield had trained there, Salaria, the other owner of ISSA, um, Ed Cohn had been in there. Like, oh, they had pictures of Odie Wilson signed. Like every Tom Platts would come. Like it was like that kind of, anybody who's in the Santa Barbara area, which is like, you know, 100 miles, 80 miles north of LA,
Yeah,
had come to that gym. It was like the gym to come to. Like the
this was
YMCA.
the spot.
Right. So the YMCA, I guess, was a spot before I was born in like the 70s and stuff, but it still had like the old dudes that hung on to it, and there's still some good lifters there. But then like it was like almost like at that point it become an evolution. Like you go from the YMCA, and once you max out all the things over there, the next place was Santa Barbara Gym Fitness kind of thing. It's almost, unless you're like some crazy old dude that just love to hang out at the Y. So,
Yeah,
which those
you want to
guys
watch
both.
out for those guys. Yeah, those are the
Well, I
guys with the
think that
towels.
more like, I think the Y, looking back on it, off subject here, had like contracts with halfway
No,
house
it's
because
cool.
there's nuts and stuff in there that couldn't have like had, afforded a gym membership.
Yeah,
And like, I remember they'd have vans that pick some of these guys up, and like they're kind of like ex-cons, like
interesting.
really.
Yeah, yeah,
So I think that those fools that were strong were at the YMCA, but I think they didn't have a choice unless they wanted to pay for it. They couldn't have paid for it, kind of thing. So
yeah.
go to Samuel Gym Fitness, and we had a new defense coordinator in my high school, and he saw me working. He had just moved up there. He's like, "Oh, you work out here after school as well as at the school?" I said, "The team." I said, "Yeah." And he's like, "Hey." His girlfriend at the time was like the manager of the gym, and he's like, "Do you want to get a job?" He's like, "Where do you work at?" And I was like, "Well, I was working at the movie theater, but I quit. I'm gonna get another job now until I can find one because I hated the movie theater." And he's like, "Oh, why don't you get a job here?" I said, "Well, I asked before, and they said they wouldn't hire 18-year-olds." He's like, "No, they'll hire you." And he said they
Yeah.
wouldn't. And his girlfriend's like, "No, this kid's good. He listens, and I'm gonna quit the gym if you don't hire him." And they're like, they wanted her to stay, so okay, we'll give him a chance. So started working there, and first, it was just Saturdays and Sundays from 1 to 7 p.m. when they closed. And then I started like getting some shifts during the week from 5 to 10 and
Mhm.
after school. So I'd go there, lift weights, say, after school, and then
Mhm.
start 5 o'clock, start it. And I would just be in there. So all these guys would come in there, and I was the only one working there managing the place. So it was a hardcore gym, and I got to see all these like people lifting real serious and heavy there,
Mhm.
and I got to like kind of take notes firsthand. And so I started looking at commonalities. Almost every single one. So our gym then was the only, besides the YMCA, was the only one that wouldn't take credit. I mean, you could take credit cards, but you could do like cash deals
Interesting.
where you pay your month to month cash. It was $5 a day to live out there, kind of thing. So
Yeah.
it attracted like the segment of society that doesn't just have a bank account that you pull out of, which were the stronger people. And so I'm like starting to take notes on it. Every single one of these guys is ex-con, and I just started taking notes. Okay, they're doing like these mechanical advantage drop sets. They're doing heavy barbell training followed by high rep body weight training, and they you know they would talk to me. I mean, they get done working out, and they got nothing to do usually, and so they just sit by and talk to me for hours. And before I knew it, I started training. I was like 16 years old, and I was writing programs for the bouncers at the strip club. They're like the toughest, tough bastards. And
Big dudes. Yeah.
I started writing all their programs. So I'm like programming. I kind of got thrown into like, this wasn't like, general fitness, like lower your blood pressure 5 points. I got people that needed this for a living at 16.
Yeah.
So I got fast tracked to personal training at a high
Like
level.
a very functional aspect of it.
Yeah, exactly. So then
this wasn't aesthetic. This was, I need to pick up another human being and move them.
Yes.
So
that's
very
it's
cool.
A lot of them were pretty. It's funny, like even the nutrition part about it. Like the guys there, I remember back then, a lot of them would just eat cans of tuna. They would train hard, and they would just, after they get done, they would bag with like 3 cans of tuna, some oranges, and just sit there and talk to me. It was classic.
I laughed almost out loud when I read about the tuna, the cans of tuna, because very recently, Zach Avanesh, I spoke with him on my other podcast. I have 2 podcasts. On my other podcast, Lift History, I spoke with him, and he, in his new book, Iron Journeys, he was writing about this story about lifting with the Ultimate Warrior and with Randy Macho Man Savage, and how, and how on the road, like that's all they had. They walked in with like 6 cans of tuna each, and he was like, well, do you guys want like some rice? You want something else? And that's like literally all they had with them on the road was just a bunch of tuna, because
high school,
cheap protein.
This rich kid's parents threw him out of the house when he turned 18 and getting in trouble all the time. And it was funny, he was living in his car, and all he would eat was tuna cans and like sometimes a little bit of fruit, and that fool got shredded.
I mean, it's lean protein. I'm not a doctor, but I think there's some problems with mercury eventually. But
I would think if you did it for life,
that's wild though. But I mean, again, with the connections, there's so many connections between all these people that I talk to that I just find interesting. And one of the most interesting things about Jailhouse Strong to me, I mean, I love the programming, because all of your books, not all of them, but the top 3 I'd say that I personally love, Tijuana Barbell Club, Craig Monson, OG bodybuilding legend, and Jailhouse Strong, are a mix of narrative with programming, where you're taking away something to use, and there's this kind of like mental aspect that you're taking away too, because you're reading this narrative of it. So you're getting both sides of it. It's not just, hey, go do this many sets, this many reps of this. It's also like, let me give you the story behind it. And that kind of sticks with you, because when I start implementing these things, that's what I'm thinking about before I do them. I'm thinking about, okay, in this chapter, he's talking about this. So with Jailhouse Strong, one of the things I loved was chapter 7, Jailhouse Strong in the weight pile, because there's so much attention in strength history and physical culture on Muscle Beach, and there's all this like, and not to take away from it, some amazing things happen on Muscle Beach that change the scope and kind of trajectory. But you write about the other side of things during that kind of golden era of bodybuilding, which would be the development and the birth of the Crips, of the gang, the Crips, and how that played a part in strength history and how that played a part in the shape of bodybuilding. So can you speak to that a little bit, like the other side of Muscle Beach, like in chapter 7?
I think also, south of the 10 in LA there's a whole lot going on down there. So you hear about Muscle Beach, and it, obviously there takes a commitment of if you fail, if you move away from like for me, for example, moving all around to train, it took commitment, but I know at the end of the day, probably if I failed, my parents could help pick it up for me. Like somehow I could go back to them.
There's a safety net.
Safety net. Whereas the difference is down there was no safety net. It was not like a kid living out his dream and like the parents support it. It's more like you get big or die. Like there would be, it's like talking to Craig Munson or some of those guys down there. Is we didn't really mention him in Jailhouse Strong because we didn't know him yet, and like Craig Munson was like this like purple unicorn you just heard about. Like people had mentioned him, and like is he even real and stuff? And then like for what I mean, he's done contests, and there wasn't much out there. You couldn't really find the pictures somehow came about like since he got popular. I guess someone put him up there on the internet, and you kind of find him. But like it was really, and then CT Fletcher, talked about him. That got his name out there somewhat more.
CT
obviously.
Sent me a video of him, and that's how I just started getting into him.
You should get him on here. He'd come on here.
I'm going to try to. That's for sure. I'm trying to track him down and speak to him. So yeah, shoot him a message. Let him know that Rob is trying to talk.
Craig's a good guy.
I'm fascinated with him, and CT sent me a video of him doing these old school pullover press where there's no rack or anything. He's just laying on a bench and picking up the barbell behind his head the way the old time strongman used to, but he's doing it with like 225. He's doing it with like a ridiculous amount of weight to be doing.
It would have been interesting to push Craig in strength. Like I wish I was around when he was there and I could have conned him into coming over to the strength side for like a year to see where we could push his bench press.
It's actually one of the questions I have on here was, here's a magical time machine. You go back and you get a chance to train Craig. What would have been possible? Because for those that don't know, I'm not like ruining the book. I'll drop links for all these books, by the way, down, and I'll drop all of Josh's information down in the description. And of course, I'll push it out on Instagram and things like that. But the Craig Munson book, I absolutely love. And without, really taking away from it, the general sense is that due to some different things that happened, Craig walked away from his bodybuilding career at quite a pinnacle for it. So what do you think you could have done with him?
Well, also, he wasn't really training for strength. He wasn't even progressive overload. He was going heavy, but it was never like, hey, let's put another 2.5 on the bar and see what happens. It's like, all right, 4 plates is too easy. Let's put on 5 now and we'll stay here for a while. It was really hard training, but if we could have got him to back off the volume some and really push the strength, I mean.
Interesting. Okay.
Craig's big man. So like if you see him now, it's not like he's like, oh, well, who is that? Like, oh, like a friend of mine did a seminar with Mike Minsar when he was alive, like in the mid 90s or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that he showed up. He hired him to do the seminar in Massachusetts. And he'd kind of been a recluse for a while. And all of a sudden he said, people like there's this line to see him. And there's some short fat guy up front smoking cigarettes with a pot belly. And everybody's like, who's a weirdo like just sitting over there smoking cigarettes, And it was Mincer. He's like,
oh, no, you froze right at the pot belly.
Like, he didn't look like he lifted weights ever. Craig Munson, for like 70-something, is huge.
Oh, I need to hear the rest of this story.
He froze up, but anyways.
I might be losing you, Josh, if you can hear me.
I can't hear if you're saying anything, but Craig was huge and is huge. And there's no telling what he could have done, but that's sort of the golden age of that kind of bodybuilding is besides, there was a need to get you need like part of like to be strong to handle a situation. There's also the intimidation factor. Some of the prison gangs, back then you had to bench press over 300 pounds. You had to bench over a certain amount to get in the weight pile. So I think with people being in and out of jail, that also crossed over too. So there was much more like power building kind of lifting down there, and more what would be myself type of training would be down there. You there, Rob?
Yeah, I'm here. Wow, that's never happened to me before. I lost you. So I'm gonna be honest with you here, Josh. I am crossing my fingers that we didn't just lose all that. God forbid. But because I know you only got a couple minutes left here. So what we'll do is this. Let's just go back into the story, the pot belly, everything. And then I'll close things out. And then I'll, so my internet, it's the first time that's ever happened. My internet went out. So all the fears you had with internet, I'm the guy who had issues. I apologize.
Well, my other place literally doesn't have internet, so it only
Okay.
has a hotspot. I know we can't get a
Gotcha.
picture. We can't FaceTime people or anything. But anyways,
Gotcha. So yeah, go back into the story, please.
all right. So my friend in Massachusetts back in the '90s, he's like he is the best. His name's Brewster. I don't actually. He has the best historical collection of bodybuilding and powerlifting books. Like his
Oh
house,
man,
he has
I'd love
walls.
that.
It's the best I've ever seen, and it's unbelievable. And he owns a gym. And it's not even like elite powerlifters or bodybuilders. Everything he has is like the highest quality. It's like
Oh,
it's almost like,
you're speaking my language.
I mean, if you want to like be profitable for
Yeah.
it's like I'm like it's amazing that people there don't know what they have. Like I'm talking like, it's like he'll have like the loaded belt squat you can do push-ups with. It's like $6,000 for just
Oh,
loaded push-ups. Everything like he'll get that equipment shipped over from Italy and stuff. I mean, it's just unbelievable. He does not skimp on anything.
that's
So,
cool.
anyways, and I've done a couple seminars for him, and he said that he hired Mincer to come over to a seminar, and Mincer was, so he'd been out of the game for a while, just doing like, I guess back then it was an online coaching. It was like you'd call him up on the telephone, pay money, and then he'd tell you what to do. And he's
Jeez.
like, so he said there's this long line to see him because he hadn't done anything in a while, but he was
Yeah.
still kind of popular. And he said, like, there was a short, fat guy in a trench coat smoking cigarettes. And finally, some of the lines like, "Who's that homeless dude over there smoking cigarettes with a potbelly?" It was
Yeah.
Minster. The
Oh,
point
that's
being,
amazing.
like it wasn't like, oh, this guy. You've seen like like say like Ronnie Coleman or something. It's like, okay, he wasn't what he was when he was Olympia, but
No.
obviously he still like was jacked and is jacked for his age.
He's up here. He's Ronnie Coleman, and he's putting in the work. I mean, I love when he posts videos where, I mean,
He's still like people are like, he's not what he was. Well, no, he's like 60 something. But
and he's got serious medical issues.
and he looks like jacked still for
Oh,
60.
better
But
arms than me, and I'm 42.
there you go.
So
So
yeah.
like Ronnie Coleman, all these other people, like you can kind of you might not know that they were like, you might not know they're the best ever or whatever, but you can see that they clearly were like a lifter. Like there's no doubt about it. Where Menser, I guess, wasn't like this. Where that's how Craig is. Like Craig doesn't just look like a former bodybuilder. Craig looks powerful. He's like 70 something, but he just looks powerful. He's got like, you can tell he's got that base of heavy, and he doesn't lift heavy anymore. I mean, he'll go in there sometimes like the bar for like 100 reps and stuff, but he works out religiously still, and he has that look still, so you can tell like, that
he's just
lifting.
I love when you called him this purple unicorn, because that's the feeling I had. I was like, who is this guy? And I'm like trying to search this, that, and the other thing. And I got your book and read your book, and then talked with CT about him. So yeah, I'm definitely going to reach out to him some more and see if I can connect. Now, I got a couple minutes left with you here, Josh. I want to respect your time, and some of my listeners shot in some questions, and I have some of my own. So I want to do a quick little, it's most of them are yes, no questions, but feel free to elaborate if you want. Quick little have you ever segment here. So kicking off, but I should be true to my sponsors. So real quick, if you'll indulge me, I'd like to send out some appreciation to someone who makes it possible to have this podcast. So one of our lead sponsors, since 1958, there's only been one spot where people can connect over breakfast, grab a bite of sporting events, and so much more. IHOP, America's choice for breakfast. I'm just kidding. IHOP is not a sponsor.
Dude.
But that leads to the first question.
I'll hit the non-record button then. Okay.
Yeah. I lost internet a minute ago, but you're just going to leave. No, the reason, listeners, if you don't know that I'm joking about IHOP, is that Waffle House is dear to Josh's heart. And it's a big part of just training and what he does. So have you ever been to the Waffle House Museum?
There's one?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to take that as a no then.
I feel like I live that museum, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I've gone over a year straight without missing a day there.
Wow. That's commitment. So I think you might need to take a trip. It's in Georgia, near the first Waffle House, and there's a Waffle House museum.
I'd be curious to know if they actually do it justice. Are they trying to like clean, church it up a little bit, or is it like They're paying homage like the crazy heroes of Waffle House.
Well, in my research, IHOP's big slogan is that the shortest distance between two people is a smile. But then Waffle House keeps it really simple. Waffle House just says like good food. Like that's it. So I don't know if they church it up as you say it or not.
Yeah.
Next question. Have you ever seriously considered professional wrestling?
Yes. I
Nice.
I was looking into that and I really wanted to do it. And honestly, I wasn't like about the professional wrestling at that point. I've
Okay.
like had intuitive business sense, and I figured,
Yeah.
hey, you know what? It's be a good way to make money. So I talked to a guy named Scanbar Akbar. You know who that is? Yeah, and
Scanbar Akbar.
he was like, yeah, you can come to my wrestling school, and he's like,
Wow.
he gets you into Arkansas State Fair. While it did sound like entertaining, I was like thinking like, all right, I didn't want to put in the work. I thought it'd be like, dude, you're yoked up, like, you know,
Get in there.
yeah, here's 6 weeks of this school, and then you get paid $1 million. I wasn't gonna go because
Yeah.
I was more business at that point. I was already past like wanting to
Yeah.
just entertain myself. But
You were
yeah,
past the state fair level.
yeah.
Fair enough. All right. This question comes from the No Wine Seller, Big Keith. How many times do you think you can bench 225?
I don't do bench presses anymore. I done it 68 times at the end of a bodybuilding workout.
Whoo. That's Midwest Kong at Home Gym Con did 74 reps. 68's right up there, man. Whew. Next question comes from Grip Sport Latino. You have any tips for a world record bench press programs? So, what you want to get better at bench press? Where do you go programming?
I would say here's the thing. Without knowing your individual variable, I'd recommend. I have a program called my bench 8-week bench press overload program. I would
Perfect.
try that to start off with because then you can kind of get okay. Like there's a couple options. If it doesn't work for you at all, which is
Yeah.
unlikely, that's good to know. So then not to
Yeah.
repeat those mistakes. If it does, you can kind of decipher what does and work better. Or a lot of times people do one of those programs, then come to me for online coaching after, like, hey, I got this result here. How do we kick it up? Like, well, every time I do this exercise, we can kind of customize it
Yeah.
further.
Makes sense to me. So many people ask this that I'm not even going to name it, but many followers want to know, have you ever been to prison?
I have not. The whole idea behind Jailhouse Strong is to free yourself of whatever form of self imprisonment you have. So,
Yeah.
a lot of times physical training is going to be that way to free you from even like mental barriers. So many
That
times,
spoke to me, man. I mean,
yeah. So it's nothing to do with actually going to
yeah,
jail, except a lot of the workouts are based on people that have been to prison. It's not like
sure.
anything further than that.
I've been through depression, anxiety, and as soon as I read that spoke to me because that's prison enough and working through it. So yeah, I hear you, man. And then I'll end out on this one because it comes from someone that you've interacted with in your life and that Paul Leonard.
Oh, that's what I was talking about with the move down here first.
Yep. So Paul Leonard, he wants to know, he's got a couple questions with the same theme. Like, do you have any of these things? So do you still have any of Dr. Squat's equipment? He wants to know. Do you have any of Kaz's equipment from his gym? Do you have any of the classic equipment from Metroflex? Did you take anything from there? And then one that is interesting, do you still have the Chicas Locas Gold card?
So I have none. I never had any of that equipment. So I think by the time Dr. Squat and I were hanging out and doing seminars all together, because I mean we literally when he died on a Sunday, we had the next Thursday we were supposed to leave to go to the Netherlands together.
Wow.
So I think at that point he'd kind of moved enough and got rid of this stuff. I never had any of Kaz's equipment. As for the other, no, I don't anymore. I'm happily married, and
There you go.
that place, I think it's gone out of business. And I think
I didn't know what that place was, but I had an inkling that it was probably a location from that area.
It's a rasty, Mexican strip bar, and then the guy from the gym used to tell us like, "Hey, you can go here." This was classic. This guy was like, he switched jobs over there. for like $5 extra an hour. And he'd been like he'd never had a problem at this Cowboy bar, like so much he even had to like throw somebody out. First week he was there, he got shot at like 6 times. And I'm like, he's like,
my
why do you guys
gosh.
come down here to watch a fight for free?
You
It's
got to
like
be gas station ready at that place.
Mayweather or somebody. I'm like, why don't we get shot at? He's like, he's like, don't worry, the cops come by there all the time now. I'm like, okay, cool. So we went down there to watch the fights, and it was rasty, dude. Like it was like
there's a lot that I love about your training and things, but 2 things that I like on a personal level are gas station ready, because even my children, I have 4 children and my oldest is 9 years old, and he knows gas station ready because when we go to a place, to use another one of your words that's a little rasty, and it's because I go on these weight pickups and things, and sometimes it's in a not so great part of town, and he'll be with me or my other kids will be with me, and we'll get out of the car and I'll be like, hey, gas station ready. And it's just kind of like our code, because people walking down the street might not know it if you're not into strength training, if you haven't read Jailhouse Strong, if you haven't read these books. So it's just kind of like our code that I give my kids, like, hey, gas station ready. And they know what that means. Like, you better have your head on a swivel. So, yep, that's my parenting technique, gas station ready.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, I have a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 2-year-old. And the 10-year-old has gotten so good at that. Like, of like anybody, even the 8-year-old is now like, yesterday, like, we were at Golden Corral in these kind of like yesterday, I go all you can eat steak at night. And, there was, I don't know what you call these people, like juggalos or whatever, or emus or something.
Are you talking about the Insane Clown Posse, like, fans?
That kind of look.
That kind of look? Okay.
And these guys inside that work there don't even know English, and they were about to throw these fools out. And I don't even know why. It didn't turn into be loud. They're like, no, you got to get out. But he was like, hey, watch that guy over there. Like he was on it. Like
he was on it.
Be ready. Kind of thing.
Good for him, man. That's the way. I feel like there's some value in that. So, and that word, you say certain words a whole lot. So, absolute last question. What is the definition of, I don't even know if I'm spelling it right, rasty or rasky?
Rasty?
Yeah. What's the definition of that? Because you say it, that's one of the Josh Bryant words that I don't hear anyone else on earth say, but you say it.
Rasty?
Describing like a gas station that you might want to watch out.
Yeah.
Describing a place that you used to go to when you were at Metroflex. You use that word like well, actually, you use it when you describe Waffle House. That like your advice for Waffle House, I heard on another podcast, was to go to one of the rasky Waffle Houses that's in a neighborhood, not off the highway.
And I think it's not a condescending term, because all the places I'm using it about I go to. So.
Yeah, exactly. It's a place that you go to, so that's why I asked.
For it. A lot of times I prefer rasty. I think rasty can apply. It's sort of like one of those words that has a few different meanings, but I think it comes down to like sketch. All right. Okay. And run down.
Okay. I'll roll with that. So yeah, rasty is the kind of sketchy, run down, but that's not necessarily always a bad thing. It's a takeaway.
Like, I mean, if you're gonna go, like get good barbecue or something, do you want like like fine china, or are you gonna go rasty? Because I mean, think about it. The rasty areas that people aren't rich, they you have to make quality barbecue to stay in business. Where like, some foo joint in Beverly Hills, you got fine china and okay barbecue, people pay for it anyway. So
if I'm on the road and I'm looking for a gym to train at, I don't want ferns and shiny equipment. I want a rasty looking gym.
Also, the rastiest gyms I ever saw was on a Columbus Isle in the Bahamas, like inhabited by 1,300 people, and it's like just like a falling down house, but like the guy there was like, hey, I want to show it to you, one of the workers at the resort I made friends with. I'm like, dude, all these fools in there, like I didn't want to film it or anything because I felt like it took away from what they had. Like they're not convoluted by this whole world of like Instagram. Everybody's pumped up. It was awesome. It was like the energy, like you could feel from like a mile away. It was so strong. So, and it was rasty.
Yeah. It had a sole purpose, strength.
And it had a soul to it.
Yeah.
Unlike a lot of gyms that have nice equipment, but like they just don't have a soul. They're soulless.
Hey, that's a great point to end on. Josh, thank you for your time. I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you for all your contributions to strength and strength history. I'm looking forward to what's coming next, and I'll drop all of your information, everything like that in the description, but I'm sure listeners are already following you. They should be if they're not. So thank you so much.
I enjoyed this. Thanks, Rob.
All right. Hey, everybody. Please do us a favor and support the Home Gym History podcast by liking, commenting, sharing, all that happy stuff. I'll be back again with another episode soon. Thanks for tuning in.